PlayStation believes in great games.
Hello and good day to you, my beautiful friends. I do hope you are well. Welcome to episode 31 of Cross Button VR, our journey into the world of PSVR2. A show for those who want to share in our newcomers' enthusiasm for the world of VR. Now, I'm your host, Laurie, but for anyone who's just accidentally stumbled across this podcast, I want to let you know that we are part of the Cross Players. So if you find yourself enjoying what you hear, check out thecrossplayers.com for links to all of our content and our Discord. And if you really do like this show, you should check out Crosscast, our weekly pod that covers the full spectrum of gaming, not just VR. So yeah, check that out. And if you really also enjoy listening to Ben and Alex, then check that one out as well. Speaking of which, it is an honour to be joined once again by two of the most audacious influencers in the metaverse. It is Ben and Alex. Hello, chaps.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Audacious.
Audacious, yeah. Is that audacious is in you're quite rude, or you're very bold and daring? I like to think the former, but we'll let our listeners decide.
I like to think the latter.
You're not, no.
Never rude.
Well, let's ask Phil too. What do you think of that?
Should get some good decor then.
Yeah. Well, let's not do that. Let's not start insulting the patrons on the show, please. But yeah, Crosscast, you do deserve credit because you do that every Thursday night and you record this every Friday night. So yeah, fair play. You must just love chatting about games, you two.
We do. And we just love chatting to each other. That's the main thing.
Just the two.
No matter the topic. Yeah.
Ben's my podcast husband.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
You are mine.
Some call you both Bellex. That's what we call you now.
Bellex.
Yeah.
That's a bit too close to another word that people call us.
Alan.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm sure it's fine. From now on, it is an honour to be joined by Bellex. No. It's not going to work, is it? Right, okay, well, let's... got some news, as always. We've got some news to about what we've been playing, and there's a little topic we're going to discuss today. We're going to be asking what is going on with all of these broken games that keep arriving on PSVR2, because it's not a good look, and we're going to try and dig into some of these games, try and question what is going on with that. So yeah. First up though, let's talk about the news. First thing I want to talk about is there's been a range of hands-on impressions for the new Ghostbusters game. Rise of the Ghost Lord, I believe it's called. And it's looking good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It looks good. Solid arcade-like VR co-op, as Upload VR say. But yeah, I think it's looking good. Some of it saying by arcade, it kind of reads basic. Is that kind of a fair sense when people say, okay, it's an arcade game. Okay, so it doesn't have a huge amount of depth to it. And there's some previews saying it's quite kind of for a younger audience. So we'll see how it sort of plays and how it pans out and stuff.
That sounds good to me, though. I think we've got enough kind of realistic military shooter kind of things. It'd be good to get something that's a bit more kiddified, a bit more colourful, simple.
It did look quite fun. I mean, you've seen all like the different proton packs and everything, and trying to fire and catch the ghosts and pull them together. And as you've seen some of the co-op stuff ongoing and what appeared to be co-op play, I thought it did look pretty fun. I'm like, I can't say it was like, oh my god, this looks amazing, or this looks. It's not your synapse. Like it isn't that type of impression or that type of gameplay. It certainly doesn't feel that way, but it doesn't need to be that as long as it is that solid experience. And I think, as you alluded to in the topic, I think at least because we know this is coming from Endreams, then it should work and it should be good and it should be of a decent pedigree.
Yeah, and also in the previews mentioning that it seems like it's been developed first for PSVR2 and it makes use of the PSVR2 features, which, as I'll come on to later in the episode, is not something we can be taken for granted these days. So it's good to see that this has been developed with the PSVR2 in mind.
Yeah.
So not too long to wait for that one. Is it October the 15th, I want to say?
I thought it was the 26th, but I could be making that up as well.
No, I think
it's the 26th.
You tend to keep better track of these things than I do. So, so not long to wait on that one. Looking good, though. Looking good. Speaking of ghosts, see what I did there? Ghost Signal a Stellaris game. That's a very strange title again. And that's coming out this October, and that's a port of previous games that were on. I think it's been on Quest and something else, Pico, or something. I don't know. But it's coming out as PSVR2. So that's good. It's supposed to be quite a action roguelike type thing, but again, it's supposed to be quite well reviewed, quite well regarded. So it's good. Good to see that coming across. Did you see the trailer for this one?
Yeah, I mean, this one does look really interesting. You say it has been on Steam. I think this is now coming to PSVR2 and Steam VR.
Okay.
And it's in the Stellaris world, and it just looks really interesting for that kind of different type of roguelike. It almost, when I was looking at some of the trailer and that, it almost kind of gave me Slay the Spire vibes to a certain extent in terms of, you know.
Yeah, well, hello, you've got
interesting.
my interest.
Yeah, but I think it feels like at the minute Fast Travel Games are the studio that are just suddenly all these games are coming from, and the publisher where everything's coming from, because you get this and Broken Edge has just come from them, and also Vampire the Masquerade, and it feels like this is their time and it's their games that are suddenly appearing. But yeah, this does look interesting. I'm looking forward to trying this.
So, am I supposed to have heard of Stellaris? You said this is a Stellaris game. I've never heard of that before.
There are a few different Stellaris games out there, yeah. So there are other games and console games, and
so is that just the name of the franchise?
Like the universe of franchise, almost. Yeah. So I think it's like, say, I think Stellaris is the. I've never played a Stellaris game, and I'm completely making this up, but I think Stellaris is like the universe.
Okay.
Well, you sound like an expert to me, so that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative, isn't it? Out of the three of us. What is it that reminded you of Slay the Spire?
It was it was almost a little like, you know how the Slay the Spire map as you're going up it? It was a bit like that.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's coming with a PSVR2 demo as well, so people can check that out. It arrives on October the 5th, so literally probably about a week away from when people are hearing this. And yeah, there'll be a demo to download as well. So no excuse, everyone can check that one out and see what they think of it. Next up, we have got a release window also for October, increasingly busy month. I hope you've got your spreadsheet updated, Alex, all your releases. Propagation Paradise Hotel. And that's been dated for October. We don't know when in October yet. They're still being mysterious and spooky. But we just didn't know it was just 2023 before. Now it's been starting to focus in on October. So again, another Halloween-y type game there.
Yeah, another one that's really highly regarded on other platforms. So people are quite excited to see this one coming.
And another one I'm definitely not going to play.
So yeah, I'm going to put my big boy pants on and start to try and play some of these scary games. Like, I need to do it. It's this one especially is like you're in some hotel and all the lights go out and the people, all kind of guests have been turned into zombies and they're all just trying to smash through the doors to get you and stuff. I was like, I don't want to play that. That just seems really just stressful.
People like spooky content during October though, don't they? I think we have an obligation to play some horror games.
There's plenty coming because you get this and you have Madison VR. I mean, Ghostbusters could almost kind of feed into that category. I'm sure there's something else.
It's got Ghost. Seventh guest with the other one.
Seventh guest.
So it's like, and
then
I think you don't make a kind of advertising campaign about
coming just
this
after,
is like the spooky season,
November.
the ultimate accessory.
Definitely.
So yeah, spooky times. Yeah, the man. And then next up, there was a port announced for a game called Blink and the Vacuum of Space. I should have segued on from the other space game. Damn it. Alex, you've got the details on this one.
I do. So this is it's described as an autism-friendly VR adventure, which I thought was quite interesting. So it comes from a studio that's actually based not far from me in Glasgow, from Changing Day Studio, they say they're passionate and innovative game development studio in Glasgow, dedicated to creating inclusive and immersive gaming experiences for players of all backgrounds. So it's nice to see something like this come out with people who maybe struggle with games like this. So it says it has the key features of the game like include like a no-fail state, so the game allows you to explore without any fear of failure, inclusive design to work closely with autistic individuals to create comfortable and enjoyable experiences for all players. There's also like a timeout button where you can, if you need to take a break, you can hit a watch so that you're taken to like a tranquil area if you just need a timeout from the game. And an accessibility menu, and then it just takes full advantage of the PSVR2's features. So yeah, this looks like a good option, and the more you see for inclusivity, the better for any gaming.
And not being funny, but I mean, all those things you just read out sound fantastic. That sounds all like stuff I want about in all my games.
Yeah,
frankly,
timeout button.
Yeah,
absolutely.
VR.
Yeah. Very cool. Looks a bit like job or vacation simulator.
Yeah, a little bit
in terms
like
of
that.
the actual gameplay, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Looks really clean. Nice
It looks
art
nice.
style.
It does look nice art style and everything, and that looks quite fun. It does have that kind of fun vibe.
Also, yeah, no fail states. I mean, this is a completely different topic for a completely different discussion, but no fail states. Yeah, if I'm reading a book, there's no fail state on a book. If I want to just skip to the end of it, I can do that. If I'm watching a thing on Netflix, I can just skip to the end of it if I want. Why are the games like you say, no, you can't get past this boss, you can't get the rest of the content that you've bought? It's like, no, I've bought this, let me get past it. So yeah, any game I think should have the option to, maybe try it 2 or 3 times. You think you want to just skip this because you know it's your game, you do what you want with it. Like, why does it make it so hard for people? Speaking as a parent as well, my son gets so like frustrated with games that just like unnecessarily push you away or push back. I don't want to start a whole debate about like, FromSoft games and it's too difficult. It should be an easy mode, but there should just be like a chapter select unlocked from the start of the game. If I want to just choose an end chapter, see what's going on there, I can do. I don't know why I want to do that necessarily, but it's my game. Let me.
Yeah, I feel like I remember a game that did do that. Like I played the boss a couple of times. It says you just want to skip this. Can't remember off the top of my head which game it was, but it was good. I liked it.
But Mario games tend to do it nowadays brilliantly as well. And some people get like a bit offended. Like, I don't need that. But you don't have to pick up the mushroom. It's there for players that you just think, yeah, go on. Just let me get past this level because I want to see what's next.
And Insomniac do you want to skip the boring shit bit and get back to the good stuff?
Or just get the game.
Here he is. Talking to Max. Yeah, any boss fight should just allow you to do that. Good. Okay, well, I'll keep an eye out for that one. Next up, we've got, this is quick fire news, I like it. It's Border Bots, which we were looking forward to playing that and releasing imminently. Would that have already been released by now? But either way, it's been pushed back, and not just by a few days or weeks or even months. It's been pushed back until next year. What's going on there, Alex?
Basically, they pushed it back because they want to release on all platforms at the same time. Because I was a bit like, so I had played a bit of this. We were going to talk about this tonight because the embargo was supposed to be up early next week. So because the game was coming out, but we can't really now. We could talk about a little bit of it, but I don't think there's any point. So it's been pushed back to land simultaneously on all platforms. So they didn't want to, and this isn't actually what it said in the press release, but I pushed for a little bit more information. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. I'm going to say
investigative
it anyway.
Journalism there from Alex.
So basically what I was told is they didn't want to release...
This is a CBVR exclusive.
Scared the absolute shit out of me now.
Sorry,
What's
listeners.
that noise? Oh, it's just Ben.
So basically I went back and said, is there anything wrong with this? Like, because it seems to be running fine. Like, why have you delayed it? And they basically said, rather than release the Steam and PSVR2 version next week and wait till next year to release the meta version, so it's the meta version that's not ready. So they want to keep them all at once. Whereas I feel like this game is actually very good and very worth releasing just now, but that's their decision, I guess. So look forward to it in February and we'll talk about it more then. But I think it'll be worth the wait.
We can maybe even talk about that decision of theirs on our topic of the show as well.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's an interesting stance they've taken.
Well, there's one game that's had its release date moved. And speaking of games moving their release dates, Tennis on Court has moved its release date forward by 3 days, I believe. 3 days, from the 20th to the 17th, which is, cool, good for them. Is that to avoid the other? Is it?
Yeah, they did say that. They said it was to avoid Spidey. Said just to give Spidey some room.
Just to get them people hooked on tennis on court.
Yeah.
So they don't even pay any attention to Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Bold strategy.
Well, also Mario Wonder as well comes out on that day, so it's quite a busy day. I think that's two. Yeah, that's your both platform holders, both the main platform holders, the two important platform holders have both got first party big games out on that day.
3 days though. Does make you
Yes, I
wonder
know.
what difference 3 days is going to make.
I know. I don't really
In
think
the
it's going to make a huge
zeitgeist.
amount of difference.
I don't know. I bet it does make a difference because, especially games like that, people think, "Oh, I've got nothing to play. I don't want to get into a big game because I know Spider-Man's coming out. I'm definitely going to play that. Or I'll just play this. I'll download this and just play this for a couple of days and just start. You just tempt people to buy it. Whereas if on that 20th, everyone who owns PlayStation. All right, I know not everyone, but most people are going to be picking up Spider-Man and playing it on that day. Oh, that's where all the talk and the hype's going to be. The PSN store is all going to be completely blanketed by Spider-Man. So I bet if 3 days before, I bet you'll go into the store and it'll be tennis on court. But they wouldn't have had that if they'd have been on the 20th.
Yeah.
So it's that visibility.
Yeah.
There you go. And this is last bit of news here, which is not strictly PSVR2 related. I think we got a trailer for Assassin's Creed Nexus, and I want to mention that just because it looks pretty awesome. We still don't know; they haven't said it's an exclusive to Quest. They haven't mentioned releasing anywhere else. So there's hopefully it's just a case of we can't. It's a timed exclusivity. We can't mention if it's going to come anywhere else until it's out, and then hopefully a period will elapse, and then we can find out there's going to be coming to other platforms as well. I hope that is the case, because if it doesn't come to PlayStation platforms, it's going to be a real shame, especially because Assassin's Creed games, all of them have always been on PlayStation. There's been exclusives like the Vita one, whose name I forget now. That was exclusive to a PlayStation platform, so it's a real series that has just been evolved and grown with PlayStation. So it'd be a big shame if there's an entry that doesn't come.
Yeah, hopefully we find. So they did date it as well, didn't they? The 17th of November, I think it got dated for to come out Meta. So hopefully sooner rather than later we'll get a bit of clarity, because I mean it feels like there's no way this, as you say, there should be no way this doesn't come to PlayStation unless Meta have paid a ridiculous amount of money, which you wouldn't put past them, to be fair.
To be fair, with all the kind of consolidation and stuff going on in the industry, you wouldn't put it past Meta to just buy Ubisoft and think, right, that's it, you're going to make games for us now. Frankly. And they can just be a platform, and they'll release games everywhere else, but they'll just be meta games because they just want, and then they're just trying to use, you can imagine like Division in the metaverse and stuff. It's all their games are all increasingly moving into the metaverse and stuff. So I could see Meta just trying to buy them. And if that happens, then it may never see the light of day on PlayStation. But with these big VR games, they look like they're making, they're spending some money on it. It looks like very high production value. So you think they'd want to recoup as much of that as possible. So they'll take the envelope full of cash from Meta to have it exclusive for a few months, and then can get the sales elsewhere as well. Fingers crossed, anyway. Because I'll be gutted if it doesn't. Cool. Any final thoughts on any of that we just discussed?
No, but it just feels like it's never ending when more games coming. I feel like every day there's something else. So we'll see what next week brings.
Yeah. They should have more VR State of Play, shouldn't they? All this stuff. You get all these games released.
Little VR corner.
Cool. Right, what have we been playing then, chaps? Let's start with something we've all been playing, and that is more Crossfire Sierra Squad. I love this game.
You love it?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. It's not going to win it's not going to win Game of the Year, but I think it's just so much fun to just. It's so like I said before when we reviewed it. It's just such dumb fun. It's such a what I want from a VR game. You can just jump into at the end of the day and just lark about, just shooting waves of baddies. It's so mindless fun. It's just like an arcade game. It's that real arcade game on your VR.
Yeah.
But my sense of Ben, that you're not enjoying it, Ben?
No. I was quite impressed with it. I've only played the very first level, so take these impressions with a pinch of salt. But very impressed with it actually. Gameplay wise, it's good fun. The kind of, it took me a minute to get used to the holding a rifle with two hands and
Mhm.
It doesn't. It's not quite 1-to-1 like where you're moving your hands in real life compared to how you're holding the gun. If that makes sense, there's a bit of kind of getting used to that. But yeah, I think the actual like gameplay itself, which is ultimately what it's all about, does feel really good. And then after doing that first level, it then teaches you how to use a sniper rifle, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like the whole zooming in thing.
Those first couple of levels are essentially shooting galleries. The one, as you progress, the levels do become more moving through them. It's still completely linear and quite kind of Time Crisis-y, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like, the first couple of levels literally are just one area, aren't they? Like the first one, you're in that street scene, ducking behind cars. And that second level, you're up on that tower with a sniper rifle, and that's it. You can't go anywhere else. But the levels after that, they do start to get more expansive.
That's a shame.
That's a shame.
I quite like just being planted in one spot, enemies just coming out, picking them off, and then waiting for them to come out again. Not sure. I'll be interested to see how it plays with
don't get me wrong,
moving around as well.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
Is that what Horde mode is? Basically, just waiting, fending people off. Oh, that's cool.
Because I was playing with friend of the show and patron Games with T, because he was trying to get one of the trophies in Horde mode, and he's journey to the platinum. Not that I was very much help. If anything, I just felt very inferior because he was very good at the game, very talented with his gun. And I just kept dying. Like, I'm dead again. And then eventually you get to a state where you're actually properly dead and you don't come back to life for a couple of waves. But he did get the trophy, so must have helped a little bit. And then me and him played some co-op, and it's a lot of fun. I'm just not very good.
You're just there to help him get the trophy. You're just there also like an extra difficulty mode, because also, as well as getting all the baddies, it's also got to revive you and stuff. So.
Yeah, so it was about 8. I think he maybe was about like 75% of the kills to like my maybe 25% if I was lucky. But any contribution helps, doesn't it? Every little helps.
Exactly. Do the way
good
off.
fun though.
Yeah. The kind of comfort settings, I went with like the first option. And I think it was a bit too extreme. The vignette was like basically just
too
really,
for you.
really intense. Like that, it didn't sort of fade in either. It just goes, as soon as you start walking, it just goes zonk, and you just see him through this tunnel.
I hate those vignettes. Turn all that shit off.
Yeah, well, I like to try and bed myself in, but that even for me, that was way too extreme initially. So I think I'll probably go to the next. Well, I've turned down the intensity of that vignette anyway, so I'd be interested to see how the next few levels, how that feels now. But yeah, I'm very impressed with it. It was lovely and arcadey, just like you guys said. So
I'd
pretty
say
cool.
we should play together though, because it's definitely more fun together. I would say, even for as much fun as it is playing through the levels on your own. Like the co-op levels are good, and the Horde mode, I think if there was 3 or 4 of us in doing that, I think it'd just be quite funny, because you just start get all the big cunts with the hammers come at you, and you're just like, and all these and then the drones start firing bombs and grenades in through the windows, and then there's these other like Chief Scout to get you, and you're just like, and I'm just like, save me. But it's fun.
Yeah, I did that one of the levels I did last night. I had the big hammer guy, and I'm trying to fumbling like, oh god, put my gun down, get my shotgun out, launch a grenade at it, and it's just like so manic and hectic and stuff, which like I can imagine if it was any way realistic, that's probably what I'd be like. I'd be like, fuck, what do I do? Just throw everything in. But yeah, it's just I like just playing through the campaign. It feels like a tutorial essentially. If it's just this kind of like teaching you how to play it, and then when you go online to play it with people, you can actually be quite good. I imagine Games with T, he's probably finished the campaign in the first day, I suspect.
Yeah, I think so.
He's got loads of platinums, that lad. He's got loads of platinums, like thousands of platinums. It's insane.
Pro.
Yeah, he is. And something you were just talking about when you were playing with him, and him obviously being really good and you being awful, reminded me of something I read about Ghostbusters. So just to quickly hark back to that, it does a thing where if you matchmakes you with someone that's much better than you, the enemies will gang up and focus on that person and to leave you alone, which I was like, that is a genius
That's
mechanic.
great.
That is genius. So you can play, they get the hard experience, and you can still contribute and have fun and enjoy it.
That's cool.
But what a great idea. What a just simple game design. So End Dreams. Doff my cap to you. That's fucking genius.
That's good.
Anyway, but yeah, Crossfire. I just think it's not going to win any Game of the Year awards or anything, but it's just in terms of it's that VR dumb arcade fun. It really reminds me of just playing games like Time Crisis or even like other games, like the games. I forget what it was now. There was a game in the arcades years ago where you used to have a sniper rifle and you could like zoom in. There was like a little screen in the sniper rifle that you can put your eye to and stuff, and you could see targets close up. That was a great arcade. If anyone's listening knows what I'm talking about, please tweet me.
I know. I'm sure. I'm sure I remember what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
But yeah, that was a favourite arcade game of mine. I just was like wowed by the tiny little screen in the scope when I was younger, when I was a kid. So this game like really evokes that for me. I think that's why it's that kind of memory of that. I think it's that kind of nostalgia element to it, which is really weird. Like a game of this is nostalgic, but it kind of is for that reason. Yeah, I really enjoy it. Well, the other game, Ben, you and I have both played, is Broken Edge, the new game. And this is out already, isn't it? People can buy this one now.
Yeah.
How far have you got, Ben? How much you played?
I mean, as far as my capabilities will take me. So not very far at all. It's very hard.
Yeah, it's very hard.
I should probably explain what it is as well.
Yeah, what is it?
It's quite unique.
It's absolutely gorgeous looking game. I'll say that about it. I love the art style and the presentation of it. It's really cool. But you are essentially you're sword fighting, you're dueling with various types of sword wielding enemy. So it could be a kind of barbarian, could be like a knight, like an old school knight with a sword. You've got samurais in there, you've got Vikings, you've got all that lot. You know, all the different types of historical fighters with swords, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to. It's kind of a weird mechanic where they come at you with their sword. You can't move. You're rooted on the spot. They come at you with their swords, and you have to strike their sword. And you try and sort of slice into their swords, and you have to do it where the two swords meet. That's where they break, and you have to try and make your sword longer than their sword. Which when you cross your swords, and if you do that, you kind of work away. You kind of work away at their sword, and it gets weaker and weaker. And then once they have depleted their sword's energy, you can then go in for the kill and stab them and defeat them that way. So it's kind of a weird, it's a weird mechanic because it's kind of a bit like fencing, I guess. You are, but how it kind of has to work in VR, I guess, is the way to make it work is that you're trying to hit their sword as deep as you can with the tip of your sword.
As close, exactly. Yeah,
Alex is really enjoying this conversation, isn't he? It's so much innuendo here. Yeah. You have to use the
You're trying to really get close to
going deep.
The shaft.
The tip of your sword. Yes, that's it.
Really sort of working the shaft, trying to down to the grip. Yeah, it's odd. It's an odd mechanic, and I don't think I've really got my head around. Because obviously your opponent is walking towards you. You don't move. You just sort of stand there and wait for them to come towards you, don't you?
Yeah.
And I don't think I've quite got the hang of at what point I should be striking or at what angle I should be holding my sword or anything like that. And then when you throw in, you've like I played as the pirate and you've got like 5 different swords on you that you can just pull out at any point.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It feels very technical. It feels like you need to
and the
get
samurai
good at
as well
it.
The samurai also had another sword. And I think those swords, they don't recover, so you can use those once and then they're broken. They're not a magic sword like the one that you're holding. So it is very technical. That's a good way of saying it. Because when the enemies are walking towards you, they're kind of swinging their sword around, so you have to kind of anticipate where it's going to go. And I really like that about it. It's that the sword's coming in, and you think, okay, I can duck away, and then I can come in, and then I can strike. And because you've got to strike it with the tip of your sword, again, you kind of have to dodge and weave and stuff. So there's kind of it is very technical. And I feel like if you got good at it and really put the time in, you'd be able to pull off some really impressive moves, and it'd be very satisfying. Yeah.
As long as there's some sword left at the end, then we're all happy.
Yeah, and there's some weird mechanics where we have to hold your stance. That was with the samurai. Did the pirate do that? We have to hold a stance and it can sort of charge up if you hold a.
No, so pirate,
you have to do a couple of quick thrusts, Alex. You have to do a couple of quick thrusts, and it charges up your shot, and it makes your sword extra
you more
powerful,
full of energy. Yeah,
there's like
with
a
the
magic
pirate, you
that
just
just comes out of your sword.
Yeah, you shake your sword around a little bit
though.
as you're a pirate. And I also played as the Ronin for a little bit, and in order to make your sword bigger and more powerful, you have to sheath it. And then when you unsheath it, that's when you can really just, go out and with the tip, just the tip. Oh, come on, lads, we're better than
We are
this.
professionals.
We're better than this. It's
No, so
but what do you think of the game?
What do I think about it? My issue with the game is that there was no sort of story or context or explanation as to what is going on. It felt quite kind of basic in that you were just sort of dropped in. There was instructions delivered just by kind of floating scrolls that told you what to do, and then you have to strike a candle, and then it'll give you the next bit of text. You can't just press a button; you have to hit the candle. It's like, okay, keep doing that. And
That's
then
quite
you read
nice.
the
I
text.
thought nice
Yeah,
way to
it's a good
interact
kind of
in
nice
VR is
VR.
to slice the candle in half.
But there was no I don't know. I could have done with someone telling me what was where was I? What was this some sort of kind of ghostly realm, and I'm having to fight these ghosts of various warriors. There was just no what am I doing here? And because of that, I didn't really. It didn't hook me because I was like, this just seems. Is this just going to go on forever? Do I just fight them all? And I can see there was stuff you unlock. There's some stronger fighters that you can unlock, but you have to kind of work your way through duels with all the other ones first. But I was like, well, what? I just didn't really get the sense of what all it was all about. Really, I kind of need something to compel me to see some mystery to solve, or set me up a story. Tell me I need to defeat these people, so I can find out the mystery to what's going on or why I'm in this ghostly realm or whatever it might be. And then it gives me a reason to do it. But I did a few of them, and I was like, I don't really want to do another 6 now. So I just kind of stopped playing. Didn't feel that pull to sort of keep me going with it. And I think it needs that for me just to be able to carry on with the becoming more technically issue with it, because I felt like the graphics of it and that kind of mechanics of it felt like a really strong game that if you've got the time and the energy to put into it, you could really become accomplished with it. And it seems like there's a really strong technical game there, but for me there wasn't enough of a reason to keep playing it really. So
no, I would completely agree. I think it needs that because it's not instantly fun. Like something like a pistol whip or a Beat Saber or something like that can get away with not having a story because it's like so instantaneous. Whereas this is, I don't necessarily want to keep dying to this same guy over and over again because it's not. It doesn't have that same feel to it. It's more shit. I need to actually learn this slowly, take my time with it. And the leveling up seemed very slow as well, and I wasn't even sure when I leveled up what that did.
Yeah, I would say the tutorial, and again, I'm probably just stupid, but the tutorial, I was like, I still don't really get what I'm doing here. This is still quite confusing. And holding those stances to power up your sword, it just, I was like, am I doing this right? Is this what I should be doing? So it was, I think it does seem like if you're into this game and you're into the idea of sword fighting, it felt cool to be swinging the swords around and to dueling and stuff, and I like the mechanic and I like it, but for me there just isn't enough of that. It's not fun enough. It seems a bit too much like hard work for me to try and get my head around to master it.
And I did brave an online match just to see what that experience was like. Matchmaking was pretty quick. It was fine. Didn't seem to be that many people online, but I got into a match straight away. But it instantly put me in a chat with a stranger, and as I've said on previous, I am. If I want to be social, I will be social. I don't want it to be like forced down my throat. So I just don't. Why? I don't want to hear from some stranger. He was a perfectly nice gentleman, but I freeze. Like I didn't say a thing. He was talking the whole time, and I was just like, I
Say
didn't even
listen to
breathe.
Cross-Button
'cause
That's
VR.
because you
like-
don't need to be chatting to someone to play this game, do you? You don't.
Well, no. But he was like, "Oh, well fought, sir." But at the end of it, and he was really nice. And I just ignored. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure if my mic was on or not. So I was just like holding my breath the whole time.
Like
mean,
it, like your wife coming through and you're like, shut up, shut up, shut up.
He knows I'm here. Yeah, but yeah, very unpleasant.
But
The
I mean, it's good
advertising,
anyway that,
Ben.
it's good that
Yeah.
the matchmaking was quick and stuff.
Yeah. But don't put me in a chat with a stranger.
But yeah, I think ultimately as well, this just isn't my sort of game. I think I make no secret of the fact that I like kind of story-driven, narrative, adventure sort of games, and that doesn't. If this had one, I'd be much more inclined to want to play it. But yeah, just the gameplay on its own isn't enough to make me appeal. But that said, I don't think this is. I appreciate and I kind of admire what it's trying to do. I think it looks great. It seems technically very good at what it does. It's just not the sort of game I would normally play, and doesn't really speak to me as a gamer. So don't let me put you off, because I think what it does do, what it tries to do, what it sets out to do, it does very well. So yeah,
Agree.
I'd probably list some more reviews of people that actually, give it more time and play it and actually properly review it rather than just give their first impressions. Seems fair. Okay. Right. Well, Alex, you've been playing something else as well. But before we get onto that, I would just like to remind everyone that if they'd like to support us, they can give this podcast a sub on the service they are using. And if they could, please leave us a review too. Well, that would be quite nice. And you can follow us on Twitter at CrossButtonVR, also at the Crossplayers. And if you really want to show the love, you can do so via patreon.com/thecrossplayers. And for £2 a month, you can help us produce the show and get entry into our lovely little WhatsApp group, which has been particularly stupid today. But thank you, everyone. So yeah, Alex, you have been playing one game also this week, and it's not released in the greatest state. Of course, we're talking about Hellsweeper VR, and as a topic really this week, I just wanted to talk about what is going on with all of the broken games that keep coming out on PSVR2. And I'm not just talking about, there's, need some patches or enhancements and things. It's games that release, and then literally within a day, there is a pre-written, it would seem, statement from the developers saying, yeah, we knew our game was a bit of a state, but don't worry, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it. Just hang in there. Just stick with us. It's like, I've just given you 30 quid, 40 quid, whatever it is. And you knew that the game was, why don't you tell us, why did this statement come out the day before release? So tell us about Hellsweeper, Alex. How are you getting on with that?
It's bad, right? And it's bad purely graphically. And it is purely graphically, and it's such a shame because you can tell straight away that this game plays incredibly well. It's well thought through, it's well designed. I think it's going to be a very enjoyable game, Ben. I think you'll love this game. It's like, just in terms of how intuitive it is, it's like flick your wrist up by holding the button, your gun cup, flick it down, you've got your sword. You can do the same in both. You can be dual wielding. Do it another way, you've now got your fire. Do it this way, you've got another. And it's like, in terms of how intuitive it is, how fluid the gameplay is. I mean, I haven't played too much of it yet because it was more, we were quite late in getting the codes out, and I think we can now understand why codes were quite late in coming out in PSVR2, and I think they've also stopped giving out PSVR2 codes from what I've read between the lines and some emails and stuff that I've seen. That could be wrong, but it's the worst game I've probably seen in terms of some of the textures and some of the it's not, I've seen people say it's blurry, and I wouldn't say it's blurry, but I'd say it's really low. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't see, even like trying to read the boxes that were trying to tell you things, I was struggling to read the stuff on screen. Like, so all the menus were coming up and it was telling you about things, and I'm like, is this my eyes? Have I just not quite got this quite right? And I couldn't read a lot of the boxes. Because it was so low. It's not, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not
fuzzy.
No, not fuzzy. Like
resolution, low resolution,
low res. Yeah, it was really, really low res. And it's to your point, Laurie. I saw someone come out, like, as the first kind of sets of reviews came out of this late on, like just before it was releasing. And they're like, I just wait for that text box coming up in this, the document saying this, blah, blah, blah. We're sorry about this. We're going to address this. We're going to address that. And it did. And it came. And they actually put out a much bigger one on their Discord, so I'm going to read it, and I'm just going to read you this little bit because it's quite interesting what they've actually said. So we'll look at this bit just now in terms of why, and there's another bit I think in the conversation where it might go. It says, the key factor as to why the graphical quality is not as good as it should be was down to a decision we made at the start of development to use what is known as standard pipeline in Unity. Many of the technological improvements, such as foveated rendering, have occurred in another pipeline, Universal Render Pipeline (URP). While the VR landscape enjoys many such beneficial tech these days that enables developers to utilise higher fidelity graphics, this was very much experimental, less stable and reliable years ago, and the fast-paced action of Hellsweeper made it difficult for them to work with. So the decision was, in their belief, that the gameplay was better than, and I've kind of paraphrasing the last bit, but they put more focus in the gameplay than in the resolution that they could work with, because when they started development they were using a different stream within the engine to the stream they needed to be to utilise the new features of the PSVR2. And they also said if they'd have made this as a port of the Quest version it would look better, but they decided not to make it a port of the Quest version and to make it a native PSVR2 version, and that's partly the decision why it ended up looking as bad as well, which I don't really understand, but there's probably a lot of technical things there, because I know a lot of people say, oh, this is just another rubbish port, but it isn't a port. It was built for PSVR2.
I should be stressed that there's been reviews of this game for the Quest version, and they say it's absolutely brilliant. It's because obviously there's no graphical issue there, and the gameplay is really solid, and it looks really good.
Mm-hmm. So it's a shame, because there's a very, very, very good game here, like a very good game here, I would say. And it's just, you're like, why didn't they delay it? Why? It's that lack of transparency, isn't it? Why is this not? They knew probably, and I think from what they've said, they probably knew a week in advance at least how this was going to kind of fall. Probably. Yeah,
it's a bit out of order to take the money off people that have pre-ordered the game.
But I don't know if that's where, if I'm reading between the lines, I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons why they had to release it. So I'm going to read this little bit. It says, some of you might wonder why we chose to release the game despite being aware of the graphical discrepancies for the PSVR2 version. The answer is a complex mix of obligations and strategic decisions. In truth, our QA with Sony only ended barely a week ago, and while we were very optimistic at the start, we realised towards the end that a lot of compromises had to be made to fulfil the vision we had for Hellsweeper VR and to be able to support cross-play across different devices with varying graphical fidelities. As such, we resolved to first release a combat-centric Hellsweeper experience we envisioned and follow up with graphical updates post-release. So it feels like their hand was forced a little bit when they knew there was issues that they couldn't.
It sounds like their hand was forced for strategic, i.e. money reasons. Like, the strategy must be,
we need to
get our game out on this newish platform where the probably attach rate for games is much higher than it will be in a year, 2 years time, 6 months even. But I think devs and publishers are forcing games out because it's such a fertile ground at the moment, and people are just buying up more games than you normally would. You know how when a console first comes out and you end up buying Snake Pass or Mr. Shifty for the Switch, and games that if they came out now, you wouldn't even pay any attention to them at all. I think there's an element of that, and they're almost like, yeah, we could wait and make it look nice, but by that time the market will have shrunk. There'll be much more competition. It'll be completely saturated. So let's just get it out, hope for the best, and deal with the consequences. And at least we've made our money.
This is not just obviously Hellsweeper. We've had this situation probably most prominently with Switchback VR. That was kind of another graphical issues where I remember you saying the same back when that released, Ben, is they just want to get in there, get that early adopter. But you also got No Man's Sky came out, and that was a port. Obviously, we've arrived in a very poor, blurry fashion, and it's now had that extra work, that extra time cooking, and now it looks a completely different game. Firewall Ultra, arguably, needed much more time to develop. There's just lots of very strange things. I mean, that was probably more about kind of design choices and the lack of a beta test and stuff, that they didn't get that feedback from players.
More than anything.
Yeah, just again, it feels like if they just got some feedback from players, they should have just had like an open few weekends, captured as much feedback as possible, and then adopted that. Green Hell was another one recently.
Green Hell's a great one, and similar to Hellsweeper, it's the fact that Green Hell performs better on other platforms as well.
Yeah,
it doesn't have the same issues.
And that's strange because PSVR2 is, apart from, if you've got like a really super duper PC VR setup, but it's just bizarre that PSVR2, the whole point of having a tethered headset to the power of a PS5 is so you're not going to get those graphical compromises that you need to have on a portable headset like Quest. That's the whole rationale for doing it. And if you're thinking, well, I could buy the PSVR2 or I could just get a Quest where the games apparently run better and I don't have to buy a PS5 or be tethered to anything, then come on, Sony. People, give them a reason to pay that extra expense to buy into your platform.
Also, like putting it back on Sony is a good point though, because I forget what the game. I don't think it was a VR game, but there was a game recently where, or was it a VR game? Maybe it was, where Sony had just gone, no, you haven't passed certification.
It's VR Skater, was it not?
Was it that or Gazlers or something?
Well, Gazlers is still within something, so Gazlers hasn't come out yet because of that. But VR Skater, it was a certification issue that pushed that release back.
But it's like, I think they might need to be even more stringent with it, because the problem they're going to face is when the Quest 3 comes out, there's going to be a much closer parity between the power of the PSVR 2 and Quest 3. Suddenly, if these games come out on Quest 3 and they're great, and they're not good on PSVR 2 for whatever weird reason, then that's damaging, really damaging.
Yeah.
So,
and it would be okay if Sony was leading the charge with their own first-party experiences that are really technically polished, like your Call of the Mountains and your Gran Turismo 7s, and then you've got companies like Capcom putting big AAA experiences like Resident Evil on. That's fine, but Sony aren't leading the charge with that. They've had 2 games and then they're staying silent on it. So, they are depending on the third parties to deliver with these games. And you get games like Synapse that really stand out as being technically fantastic and really polished experiences. But they can't have more games that are sort of known for their compromises and being kind of a bit of a mess at launch that eventually do get better, maybe. It seems to be there's more in that category than there are the polished standout things arriving on day one working as they should do, which is not a great look.
That's a good point, and it does, getting back to the point about the Switch when that launched, there was a whole lot of Nintendo leading the way and going, don't complain that this is only a tablet, look what we can do with it, look at how good these games look that we're making. So there's no excuse why you can't port a third party game. Witcher 3, for example, didn't look great when it first came out, but they sorted it out. But Sony, you're right, it would be good if Sony can come forward and go, this is what it's capable of, because there's just not enough people. It's almost embarrassing. It's almost like it seems like there's some sort of issue with the hardware for other people to work with. But which isn't good at all.
Because I think one of the other things that they did come out and say, they said, because I think obviously with a lot of the Unity stuff coming on and they were talking about bits and pieces in Unity, people were jumping on Unity probably unfairly in this instance, and they said it was more down to the unfortunate timing of the PSVR2's announcement during their development phase and then their subsequent decision making to blame themselves more than anybody rather than people blaming Unity. So, I mean, depending on what point and what stage of that hardware, and it does sound like the initial choices in the engine that they used were partially to play here because they couldn't utilise some of the other things at play at that point in time. But again, that just comes down to, well, wait till you can utilise it. Don't force it out the door, because it's not going to do you any good in the long run. But
especially if the gameplay is so strong, then if you have to release it next year, then it will do well next year. If the game can speak for itself and stand up for itself, then you don't need to try and just get it out there early just to try and get it over the line and stuff. Just people will buy it when it's
frustrating. Ready. From a user perspective, that's frustrating for Hellsweeper and Switchback and VR Skater. I was enjoying VR Skater, but I was wrestling with it the whole time. Like it's just these games are so close to being what we need them to be, but it's just these little technical gripes that keep cropping up and getting in the way.
The technical gripes in VR are that much more noticeable, aren't they? Because in a normal game, they don't have that immersion breaking impact that when something's in VR, it really stands out if there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, you get a couple of hitched frames in a normal game. You're like, whatever. You get it in VR. You're like,
or you get a hard crash in a normal game. Like it's like, oh, what's going on there? Hard crash in VR. It's like being ripped out of the Matrix. It's like, fuck. Like it's really, it just kind of shocks you if everything just crashes. That's what I had that Before Your Eyes. That I had that hard crash on that. That really kind of literally ruined the whole experience for me, just because that whole playing a game that was 2 hours long and an hour and 45 minutes into it, it just crashes and just totally ripped out of it. And by the time I've restarted, all of that kind of you've kind of building that emotion throughout it, and it's just kind of nope, gone now.
And that is such a shame, because that game is such a you game. Out of the three of us, if I had to bet who would have liked it the most, I would have said you. But the fact that you had those technical issues with it, it's just ruined it. And it's the same for me and Switchback. Like I that's simple. Shooting, brilliant. Not that scary, perfect. Get to a bit that I can't get past because reasons. Yeah, it's just.
I think I had the same thing with Switchback as well, because it crashed right at the end of like the first time of playing it, and I'm like, well, if it's going to crash then, I don't want to keep going. It's a shame.
Yeah, and it's right, because there are games that do run brilliantly well, so it's not, the hardware's fine. The PS5 can run these games. It's just a case of, you think maybe Sony needs to be more hands-on with, like, we need to give you the technical support to get this stuff working smoothly, or to be more open with if they've got any queries or issues, or if there's any kind of bug fixes they need help with. I don't know, I'm not a developer, but whatever the answer is, it can't just be to release games broken and then have a statement ready the next day to say, yeah, we know it's shit, sorry about that, but thanks for giving us your money, and trust us that we'll get around to fixing it soon. Promise.
Yeah, not on.
Yeah. I mean, I should say it's not just VR, because you get games like Cyberpunk, and they do eventually, that released an absolute stay, and they worked at it, and they kept working it. It turned into the game it needed to be, but it just feels like you're getting more and more of them these days, and particularly it's noticeable on PSVR2.
Because I think even, as you say, I think what Payday 3 released yesterday at time of recording, and I think it had a solid day of matchmaking not working. So that's a game that you need matchmaking, because that's how the game worked, and it was just basically like, it just didn't work. And they had betas and stuff, I'm sure, or certainly they had closed tests and stuff, and it still came out and it didn't work. Hopefully it's a bit better now, but it's not just PSVR2, but it's kind of, it's where we are in the industry. People need to get games out, and they're forcing games out, and
yeah, I mean, and they must know their numbers, and they must know that we could either do this or we could do that, and this is the better option financially. Because ultimately, that is what matters.
Yeah,
is the
that's
finances of it. But you'd think that it's that day one that's when games make their sales, isn't it? In that release window, that's when they sell stuff. And if you mess up your release window and then 6 months later it's fixed, I'd love to know Switchback. Did it have another peak of sales once they got that big patch out? Maybe, but I doubt it. They probably wasted all that goodwill, because there's probably a lot of people that don't pre-order games. They wait for reviews or initial impressions from their favourite kind of commentators on YouTube, people like us maybe, who knows. And then they decide, okay, that seems like a safe bet to go and buy it. And if all those first impressions are like, nah, shit, then they won't buy it. They'll hold off, and maybe they'll get around to buying it later, or probably they'll just move on to something else. Unless you're going to completely like re-release the game and make it like a whole new thing. Unless you are a massive game like Cyberpunk, I don't think you can really recapture that zeitgeist and stuff to do it.
No. And I think that what really exacerbates it in VR is, because you're right, it's the same with non-VR games. Like Jedi Survivor was another good example from earlier on in the year. The difference is we are starving for good games on PSVR2, like really good games. You're not having that problem on traditional consoles. Like you can't play all the games, all the great games that are coming out. Whereas there's a famine for PSVR, like really top quality PSVR2 stuff. So every one of these that comes out that gets hyped and then it comes out and it's a dud is like another nail in the coffin. And it's so by that you mean there's loads of games to play, but it's those tentpole standout releases that you want to hang the platform on. Those Half-Life Alyxes and stuff that are going to be the system sellers. And so when games like Firewall come out, that should be that
game,
Yeah.
then when they fall flat, it's not good.
Exactly. And even in the absence of those, even the ones that are coming out that would be like filling the gaps between them, we're having issues with. So yeah, it is a real problem. They need to get on top of it ASAP.
Well, in the meantime, we'll just have to play more Synapse, more Pistol Whip, and more Another Fisherman's Tale.
Mastermind.
Oh, yeah, there he is. We need a bell,
Ding, ding.
Ben, we can ring every time
Been
we
a
mention
while.
Mastermind. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's technically an accomplished game. I don't think it's ever crashed on me. So, yeah, talk to those devs.
True.
They know what they're doing. Cool. Well, I think we should probably end it there with that discussion. Let's hope we don't have to have this conversation again, because at the end of the day, it's 6-7 months into the lifespan of the platform. Let's hope this is just it's that period of, like the devs here are saying, that they started development and then VR's come along, and hopefully by next year that have had long enough with the platform, any games in development will have had that time to transition to the new technology that's on offer from PSVR2. So hopefully in year 2 onwards, we're not going to be seeing as many examples of this.
Definitely.
Fingers
And
crossed.
just back slightly earlier in the show, I think the arcade game you were talking about, Laurie, was Silent Scope.
Yep, that's the one.
That one?
Yep.
Good. There we go. You need to leave all your comments.
Yeah, all those comments.
Got it.
All those comments.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you could tell your family and friends about us, and maybe leave us a review on YouTube, because we don't do the giveaways anymore. But no reason you can't still go and leave a comment on the YouTube. Reply to the tweets that we put out every week to say, oh, lovely episode. It's lovely to get those comments and messages, so thank you very much to everyone that does. And if you want to get more involved with the rest of our crew, please don't hesitate to drop into our Discord and say hi. Thank you for everyone that's done so already. And last but not least, thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the work we do. Now, I've been your host, Laurie. These two have been Ben and Alex, and we will see you again next time. Until then, it's goodbye.